Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Pixel Players podcast, hosted by me, George, or at FevanOverNFT on Twitter. Me, Sento, at RadBenet on Twitter. And me, Sam, at SkipperNFT on Twitter. Sento and Sam can't be here this week for a few reasons. Sento has been under the knife. He unfortunately tore his ACL a month or so ago, and he's just had his operation reconstructing that, so he's resting at the moment. And Sam is very busy moving out of a property. As we all know, packing up your stuff is no fun, and it's also very time-consuming and energy-consuming. So they will both be joining us hopefully next week. We actually missed last week because of what I've just told you. So this week we're just going to be looking at spending a bit of time with Uncle George on this fine Wednesday afternoon. It's just gone 3:00. I'm sat here in my Chelsea third kit from 2020-21 season when Chelsea won the Champions League. The pink and blue one that people said looked like a Crystal Palace shirt. I got Thiago Silva on the back. Obviously sat here very happy after last night. But yeah, we're going to spend some time just going through a few things, mainly the Champions League last night and the fixtures that lay in wait for this evening. But before that, we'll jump back to this weekend, which saw a great weekend of football in the Premier League and yonder. We had some cracking games. Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea were in action, looking impressive again. Man United back to winning ways. Spurs getting a good win. Looking at Serie A, very interesting what's going on at Serie A. Napoli playing some unbelievable football as they creamed Cremonese 4-1 on Sunday. PSG and Mbappe hitting rocky waters as they drew 0-0 with Reims, which left Mbappe posting on Instagram saying how unhappy he was playing in the position he's playing in, basically blowing open all chat about him moving, to Real Madrid or to Liverpool, to probably not Man City, to Manchester United. I'm sure Chelsea will be sniffing around there as well. Bayern Munich potentially. So yeah, very interesting with what's going on with Mbappe there. We'll have a little chat on that. And the Bundesliga as well. Union Berlin sitting top of the tree in the Bundesliga. Second place, SC Freiburg. Bayern in third and Dortmund in fourth. But what a game between Bayern and Dortmund. In Dortmund on the weekend. Bayern going 2-0 up and Dortmund coming back to get a last-minute equaliser. What a game. What a game. Anyway, we'll start with the Premier League. So basically, where do I begin? The Premier League didn't have an early kickoff this weekend, but what we did have was a Saturday full of goals. You had Newcastle piping Brentford 5-1, Chelsea put 3 past Wolves, Man City put 4 past Southampton, and Tottenham got the all-important away win at Brighton, who have looked impressive this season, Brighton, but obviously Graham Potter going to Chelsea and De Zerbi coming in. There's always going to be a sort of moment of transition where the team are going to have to adapt to a slightly different playing style. Even though De Zerbi, I think himself, did actually say that he's going to be building upon what Graham Potter's done already, rather than completely ripping up the book and starting from scratch. But Tottenham did win 1-0. Quite a cheeky finish from Harry Kane, a little cheeky header. But then Sunday, well, West Ham beating Fulham 3-1, Palace beating Leeds 2-1, and the big game of the weekend, Arsenal beating Liverpool 3-2, and Liverpool continuing to struggle in domestic football this season. They seem to be picking up a few wins in Europe. They've beaten Ajax and they've beaten Rangers. But when it comes to the league, they keep falling short. And even today, Jürgen Klopp has been in the news for basically having a bite back at a reporter who posed him a question which was basically consisting of a quote from ex-Liverpool midfielder Didi Hamann. Jürgen Klopp was not impressed at all, basically told him to shove it where the sun doesn't shine. Basically, I think making an embarrassment out of himself again. If I'm being honest, I think little Jürgen Klopp has got one eye on tonight in the Champions League, who Liverpool will be playing against Rangers in Scotland. And he's got the other eye quite firmly on the Premier League fixture, which will be on Sunday evening at 4:30 or late afternoon, as Man City travel to Liverpool. And I think Jürgen Klopp, Man City did draw 0-0 with Copenhagen last night, but they did rest Erling Haaland. And I think Haaland or no Haaland, Man City beat Liverpool, but I think Jürgen Klopp is slightly concerned about what might happen to his beloved Liverpool this Sunday. So yeah, Jürgen Klopp looking very irate in his pre-match press conference for the Rangers game in the Champions League this evening. But that Arsenal-Liverpool game on Sunday was an absolute cracker. Absolute cracker. Arsenal going wonderlap within 50 seconds. And, it's the same old story, isn't it? Arsenal, the one thing you don't want with Arsenal is you don't want to give them that early goal. Because you give them the early goal, it's the way they play. They play with such intensity at the start. If you can hold them off, like we kind of saw with what Tottenham did at the Emirates, they held them off until about the half an hour mark when Thomas Partey scored that screamer. But I think if Thomas Partey didn't score that screamer, which he wouldn't have, that shot goes in one in every 100 shots, the crowd were getting nervous at the Emirates. So if you can keep Arsenal quiet for, at least 30 minutes, I think you've got somewhere to sort of a platform to build off, because they come at you with such intensity and such pace, and you've got little Mikel Arteta barking on the sidelines, that you really can't afford really to concede early against Arsenal at the Emirates. And that's exactly what Liverpool did for the first goal. In my opinion, Jordan Henderson at fault for that goal. If you watch the replay back, he should be perhaps a couple yards ahead of where he is, cutting off that sort of inside passing lane towards Odegaard, I think it was. You've got to shut that passing lane off. I don't know how he's not spotted that. And this is exactly what you're hearing from Liverpool fans when they're saying that the midfield is not up to scratch anymore. Henderson's legs are gone. Milner's legs are gone. Yes, they can play roles in the squad, perhaps in competitions such as the FA Cup and the Capital One Cup or the Carabao Cup, whatever it's called these days, and maybe the odd substitution and filling in for when there's an injury perhaps, but giving them key roles in key games at this point, I think has been Liverpool's downfall. And I think we've seen people questioning Liverpool's foresight in terms of looking forward and knowing that the end was near. If you think back to COVID, when the fans weren't in the stadium, Liverpool was shaky. They were losing at home to the likes of Brighton and I think Fulham, if I'm not incorrect. But Liverpool looked shaky back then, and that's when the board should have looked at the squad and thought, you know what, it's probably time. It's probably time to start freshening things up. I actually think, I think this was upon the return of football, wasn't it, in 2020? Rather, that 2020 was the season Liverpool won the league. So it was a 2020-2021 season when Liverpool just looked well off the mark, almost in a hangover from winning the league. And that's when I think, winning the league, the fact that when they won the league, they just won the Champions League as well in the final against Tottenham. I think that was the point in which the board and Jürgen Klopp should know a lot of these players have won it all here now. They won the Club World Cup as well and the Super Cup. They've won it all here now. This squad has achieved to its fullest. Can we sustain this success? We saw quite clearly not in that following season. Like I was saying, they were losing at home to Brighton. That should have been the point where they started to scout new players who were, perhaps the next Sadio Mane, because they've let Mane go to Bayern, and that looks to be a massive loss. But for me, Liverpool have got many things to blame for this. But in the game itself, they did manage to get back into it. It went 1-1. They equalised. And then just before the half-time mark, they the half-time break, they gave a silly goal away again. Trent potentially at fault for this one. He also played a role again, I think, just after Henderson. I think he was also at fault for the first goal. Trent, defensively, very questionable. Second goal goes in, Saka scores, Arsenal go in ahead at the break. They come out in the second half, Liverpool equalise through Roberto Firmino, tidy finish, and then they concede a silly-ish penalty. I mean, Thiago, you could say, swings a leg at it, hopefully, in hope that he's going to make connection with the ball. But in my opinion, Liverpool should have had a penalty as well. Handball on Gabriel Handball. Well, didn't handball it, I'd say the ball hit his arm in an unnatural position. But I think he got away with it due to the proximity he was to the ball. So Arsenal got the win. Saka converted the penalty. 3-2 in the end. It's going really well for Arsenal. But I still think, now Arsenal fans might disagree, I think they haven't come up against a proper team yet. And when I'm saying a proper team, I mean Man City are well ahead of the rest. But, if they were in the Champions League, for example, they would have been playing against a few other, solid units. But they've come up against a Tottenham that I think have looked, devoid of ideas at points and players out of form. They lost against a Man United that were just finding their feet. And a Liverpool they've played who are, this is the worst start to a season for a Liverpool team in many a year. So I think Arsenal fans and Arsenal players and Arsenal in general need to still, stay calm. And I think they are, in a sense. I'm not seeing many Arsenal fans getting too ahead of themselves anyway. But I just think they're still yet. I think Chelsea on the 6th, if I'm not mistaken, their next sort of biggest game is Chelsea on the 6th of November. I'll just double check now as I scroll through the fixture list. So Arsenal have next the Man City game's been postponed. So they've essentially got Leeds away. They're not playing then the weekend after that. And then the weekend after that one, on the 22nd of October, or 23rd of October, they play Southampton away. So that's their next two games. Leeds away, Southampton away. 6 points if you ask me. And then they got Forest at home, and that's 9 points. If you go to the weekend after that, the 5th, 6th of November, they've got Chelsea away on the Sunday at 12 o'clock as well. It's a horrible time for a kickoff. But in my opinion, and I am a Chelsea fan, so I may be biased, this can get clipped up. This could get clipped up. This could get clipped up. So I'm not going to be careful with what I say. Actually, I'm going to let loose. I think Chelsea do them. I think Chelsea do Arsenal. In the context of how we're playing now, and in the context of the squad we have now. For example, Reece James took a little bit of a dodgy fall against AC Milan last night, and there was a point where I thought, shit, this could be our season derailing again. But I don't know. Not quite to the extent of last season, because we've got Graham Potter in charge, who may deal with things slightly differently to Thomas Tuchel. But I did think, James looked like he was injured at one point. But if we can keep our key players fit, and the squad we've got now, fit to Arsenal, the 6th of November, I think Chelsea do them. I'm seeing now Reece James sort of clattering Martinelli. Martinelli's been getting rubber the green, against a sort of player. Trent, that's like I've been saying. Trent is questionable defensively. Who's the best right back? Who's he play against? Malacia for Man United? I mean, he's been okay, I guess. Spurs, Emerson Royale. I'm building a bit of a case here. I think if he comes up against Reece James isn't perhaps as quick as Martinelli, but he's got the strength to hold him off. So, I'm trying not to say anything that is going to get this clipped up, but I just think Reece James doesn't give Martinelli that freedom he's been having, of late. And in addition to that, I just think Chelsea, the way Chelsea are playing at the moment, there's confidence building there. There's a real togetherness about the team. It's a team with know-how. It's a team of real talent. Graham Potter's got the attackers scoring again. You're seeing the likes of Bro you add into his account. Conor Gallagher getting the winner against Palace. I think if they continue on that trajectory over the next few weeks, you could see, I think Arsenal's demise could, not demise, but I think they meet their match. And I do think Arsenal qualify for the Champions League this season, unless they get a key injury to, say, a Martinelli or a Gabriel Jesus or a Saka. So, or a Xhaka. I mean, Xhaka's been so key for them this season that even you could say he would be a big miss for them. But moving on from that, Man City went top again on Saturday after they beat Southampton. Hasenhüttl's job's potentially on the line. But yeah, City ended the day on Saturday on top, requiring Arsenal to beat Liverpool to return to the top of the league. So that title race is really starting to shape up. And like I say, if Chelsea can continue to maintain the trajectory of improvement and progression that they're on, this title race could... At the moment, we're kind of just saying it's Arsenal. I don't actually know if we are saying that. I don't know what we are saying. I'm not seeing any Arsenal fans saying they're in for a shout. I think most people are probably just saying that it's Man City's to lose, which it is. But I think we could see a really interesting title race this season if Chelsea can string a few results together. I think we could see a Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City title race. But I just think Man City are way too strong. Erling Haaland has been robotically good. He's been unreal. I don't know if I've seen a player take to the league like this since perhaps Sergio Aguero. And I think Erling Haaland is outdoing what Aguero did when he came into the league. 3 hat-tricks already. 15 goals in, I think it's 8 or 9 games. Unheard of. And if he's on this trajectory throughout the season of scoring goals, he's going to break records. So De Bruyne looks on form. Foden looks like he's kicked on another gear or two. I just think Man City are way too strong for Arsenal and they're way too strong for Chelsea. But in football, you do never know. So, like I say, I think we could see a 3-horse race for that league this season. And I'd like to see a 3-horse race. How many years has it been now where it's been just either a 1-horse race or a Man City-Liverpool race? I think we deserve a decent title race between, another, not Liverpool-Man City. It'd be nice and refreshing to see Chelsea and Arsenal back in a title race with Man City. And, who's to say Spurs don't start picking up some results? Who's to say Antonio Conte doesn't get his ideas, drilled into them Spurs players, and they start collecting a few results, and the attacking players start to bag a few goals, and Son looks like his normal self, Kulusevski comes back. Who's to say this couldn't be, a Spurs and Arsenal and City title race, or a Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal and City title race? I mean, the top 4 race as well, again, is so exciting with Man United and Liverpool sort of on the precipice. And Newcastle kicking on a gear as well last weekend. Newcastle beating Brentford 5-1. Bruno Guimaraes looking like an unbelievable midfielder. He looked like arguably the best midfielder in the league last weekend. The way he's dictating that play for Newcastle. He's given sort of the freedom of the middle of the pitch as well. So he's not particularly anchored to one specific role. He, as we saw, drifting around and bagging himself that lovely second goal. Bruno, and you'd say, maybe getting himself a move to a bigger team. I think perhaps if you're talking about Bayern Munich's maybe coming in for him, or a Real Madrid or a Barcelona. But why would he go? I mean, I guess, you go to a Chelsea, and Arsenal, a City, a United, a Liverpool, because, status-wise, it's an upgrade. But wage-wise, he isn't going to get a wage improvement going to any of those clubs. Newcastle are going to be paying him top dollar. So Bruno is probably buying into this project as well that they've got going on. Really interesting what's going on at the top half of the table. At the bottom half of the table in the Premier League, Leicester looking proper shit, proper, flaky. Nottingham Forest, winless in 5. They've just given Steve Cooper a new contract, which I respect. Backing the manager. Wolves, I saw a stat the other day. I think Wolves have only scored 3 goals all season, which is absolutely ridiculous. But the thing that's sort of keeping them, hopeful is their defence, which is significantly greater than that of Southampton, Nottingham Forest or Leicester. Southampton are only sitting 1 point above the drop zone. And Aston Villa are sort of not in free fall, but they are not playing well at all. And Steven Gerrard looks to be losing the support of the Aston Villa faithful as well. I've seen people say that it's due to his, not only his playing style, but his kind of attitude and his personality off the pitch. And I can completely understand that. I always found Steven Gerrard slightly cold when listening to him. I don't know if that's because he speaks in such a sort of a monotone fashion. There's nothing against him. He was a fantastic player and probably one of the best midfielders. One of the best midfielders I've seen. Growing up and watching football. So nothing against the man, but I can understand why Villa fans would be finding it hard to get behind him when he's sort of, I don't know what he does. For that famous sort of saying he has, isn't it? For sort of giving match press conferences and stuff. But I can completely understand why they'd be sort of losing faith in Steven Gerrard. Crystal Palace on level points, but they've got a game in hand, as do Leeds. So that kind of concludes, I guess, the Premier League in terms of what happened last weekend. I guess if we quickly look forward to this weekend, obviously the week of the 14th and 15th of October. Just scanning through any big games. You've got Tottenham Everton on Saturday at 5:30. That's going to be a good game, I should imagine. Frank Lampard's got Everton sort of playing a certain way now, which seems to be picking them up a few more points across the way. They did lose 2-1 to Man United at 7:00 Sunday evening, but nevertheless they have definitely improved. Sunday, 2:00, Man United are hosting Newcastle. Now to me, that looks like that could be a cracker. The way Newcastle played last weekend, they could really take it to Man United. So I'll have my eyes on that one. My Chelsea will be playing away at Aston Villa, and I fully expect Chelsea to get the win there. That's 2:00 on Sunday. Leeds host Arsenal. That's also 2:00 Sunday. Expect Arsenal to get the win there. West Ham away to Southampton. Leicester hosting Palace. And the big one of the weekend, 4:30 on Sunday, Liverpool at home to Manchester City. And as I said about 10 minutes ago, I think this could be a swashbuckling, entertaining event for the neutral to enjoy with their Sunday dinner. I think we could see Man City absolutely pipe Liverpool. I think we could see 4-5. Without return, I'm not sure. Liverpool have got some good finishers, but the way Man City played the other day against Man United the other week, wasn't it? And Southampton on the weekend, could get messy. So really exciting weekend coming up. Wednesday at the moment, so a few days still to go for that. I'm away this weekend, so won't be able to watch all of the games I want to be watching, but I think I'll be getting back on Sunday at some point. I'm going off to Bristol this weekend, so yeah, hope you're back Sunday. I'm not sure I'll be in time to watch the Chelsea game, but I'll definitely try and watch it on the train. But I'm hoping I'll be on time for that Liverpool-Man City game, because boy, that looks like it could be an absolute feast for the eyes. As we transition over to Serie A quickly, as Napoli creamed Cremonese 4-1 on Sunday, extending their lead at the top of the table. They're only 2 points ahead of Atalanta, 3 points ahead of Lazio, and 3 points ahead of Udinese and Milan. So quite tight in Serie A at the top, all playing 9 games, which is very nice to see. They obviously haven't had to deal with the Queen's passing like we have. So everyone on the same amount of games. You forget, because we haven't had, in the Premier League, it's been a fucking joke. Like the last few years, it always seems to be like teams who have played 2 games more than the other or 1 game more. And it's so annoying to look at the table, because it's just constantly like, they're ahead of them, but they got a game in hand. And then you get games in hand FC like Man United and Arsenal tallying up points they're going to accumulate against the lesser sides, and then they actually end up losing. And it's just so annoying. And it's actually really refreshing here as I sit in front. I actually cracked my laptop screen last weekend as well, which is very irritating to say the least. So I've got my dad's monitor hooked up to my laptop now. So I'm sat here looking at a 27-inch screen with all my tables and fixtures and whatever on it. The mothership of Pixel Player, and the Pixel Player Enterprise, basically. But as I look at it, it's so refreshing to see Serie A matches played 9999999999999. Don't put that number into your phone, because you're going to end up calling the Great British Emergency Services. But it's so refreshing to see that. And as I say, Napoli at the top of the tree. Milan beat Juve, who are essentially in free fall, 2-0 on the weekend. So that's Serie A. Serie A looking interesting, as I said, very close at the top. Inter sitting in 7th, Roma in 6th, Juventus in 8th. Yeah, so keep your eyes on that one. We'll revisit that one next week, I'm sure. The Bundesliga, Oktoberfest. What a game in Dortmund on Saturday evening, as Bayern went 2-0 up, and then Dortmund came back to get the draw with a last-minute goal from Anthony Modeste at the far post. And the way that the crowd at Dortmund are always going to get their plaudits, because it is just insane, and that yellow wall looks great every time you see it on screen. I'd love to go to Dortmund. The Pixel Player boys would love to go to Dortmund at some point, wouldn't we lads? Yeah, but we'd love to do that at some point. To see the yellow wall in person would be unreal. But yeah, just what a result. I mean, in terms of the draw, you might not see that as that significant, but Dortmund have really struggled against Bayern. And to put it into perspective, I think Erling Haaland played 5 games for Dortmund against Bayern, and he didn't pick up a single point in any single one. So for Dortmund to get a point is a good result for them, and it keeps things tight in the table in the Bundesliga as well, as Dortmund and Bayern sit 3rd and 4th on 16 points each. 2 points ahead of them, SC Freiburg in 2nd, and 4 points ahead of them, Union Berlin. Very interesting what's going on there. Union Berlin last weekend picking up the win away at Stuttgart. RB Leipzig getting the 1-1 draw at Mainz. Leverkusen piping Schalke 4-0. And another 2-2 draw for Freiburg away at Hertha Berlin. But the Bundesliga looking tasty as well. As I said, are Bayern top? No, they aren't. They're 3rd. So keep your eye on that one. Just as Serie A, we said with Serie A, we'll definitely be revisiting that one next week. As this weekend, Bayern actually play SC Freiburg, at 6:30 on Sunday. Dortmund away at Union Berlin as well. So what a weekend coming up in the Bundesliga. That's Sunday at 4:30. So Dortmund away at Union Berlin. Union Berlin sitting top of the Bundesliga, Dortmund 4th, and Bayern 3rd place play 2nd place Freiburg. Great weekend looking likely in the Bundesliga. So if we quickly then move on to Ligue 1. PSG 0-0 against Reims. That game took place on Saturday. PSG, a man sent off. I believe it was Sergio Ramos, as you would probably Yes, Sergio Ramos. Sergio Ramos got sent off. Goalless draw. Reims would have been probably pretty happy with that. One man who was certainly not happy with that, Kylian Mbappe. He took to Instagram, putting on a post, basically saying, #PivotGang. Now, personally, I don't know what that means. But he's not happy with the position he's playing in. And he wants to get out of Paris Saint-Germain as soon as possible. Some sources saying, fucking January. And that comes as a massive surprise because he basically got given the keys to the kingdom in the summer in that new contract that had everyone basically scratching their heads thinking, what on earth is going on at PSG? Basically giving the player all the power. Now, it seems to me that he wants out. And that is actually slightly annoying because I was kind of banking on PSG potentially winning the Champions League this season because I do not want Man City winning it. So that's slightly annoying. But can you imagine Mbappe having the cheek to be moaning about where he's playing when he's sharing a pitch with Lionel, the Messiah, Lionel Messi? Lionel Messi. Like, most of us would lick the pavement, lengths of pavement, to even kiss the boot of Lionel Messi, let alone share the pitch with the bloke and be like spraying passes around with him and linking up and like assisting him and getting on the end of his assists and celebrating with him and sharing and shower with him afterwards. Like, unbelievable. Mbappe needs to realise, like, he's a young man. You know, you've got so much career ahead of yourself. We all sat there thinking he's going to sit there, take the cream off the top of this lovely contract that he's signed at PSG, and then he's only still going to be, 25? And then he can go on to Real Madrid and do what he wants, at the Bernabeu, and probably win 4 Champions Leagues and 7 La Ligas and 4 Copa del Reys and, whatever. And maybe another World Cup in the, alongside it. But he's not happy, and Mbappe, he seems like he wants out ASAP. And Paris Saint-Germain have rightly sort of come out and said, we're not planning on selling you, mate. Like, sit down. But yeah, on this weekend coming up, we got it's a derby, isn't it? I believe the Paris Saint-Germain Marseille game. I believe it's a derby. I'm not sure what the name of the derby is, but that should probably be a tasty fixture. So if you fancy that one, Sunday at 7:45 in the evening, I might watch it. Who knows? That's quite a nice time for a game actually on Sunday evening. I'm obviously going to be watching the Liverpool Man City at 4:30. Then it's tempting to watch the Bundesliga one, wasn't it? It was Dortmund Union Berlin, was it? At 6:30, 8:30, can't remember. Anyway, many games. So many games this weekend that I can't even work out which ones I want to watch. But probably end up watching the Liverpool Man City one, and probably might dip in and out of that PSG Marseille one. That would be interesting to watch. So moving on from that, we've obviously got to touch upon La Liga. And Sento would have been very happy Friday night as Valencia beat Osasuna away from home 2-1. Goals from Justin Kluivert, the son of legend Patrick Kluivert, and Diakabi as well. And Osasuna getting their goal probably too late, 3rd minute of added time after the 90, Darko Brasinac scoring for them. 2 red cards though, so Diakabi got sent off after scoring, and Unai Garcia sent off as well. So yeah, Sento will be happy with that. But if we actually go to the table on La Liga, Barcelona back to the top. On level points though with Real Madrid, but the goal difference is not significantly greater. It's greater by 7. It's very interesting. Athletic Bilbao 3rd. They're 5 points behind both Madrid and Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid 4th, 6 points behind the front 2. Sento's beloved Valencia sitting in 7th on 13 points, so he'd probably be okay with that, not too sure. But, Peter Lim, sell up, mate. We all want to see Sento and Valencia back in the Champions League. And it's so annoying the way things panned out. Basically, quick anecdote for you all. Me and Sento and another one of our friends for university went travelling around Spain for 5 weeks back in 2019, just before COVID. And we did not the whole lot, but we did the majority of Spain. We did Valencia, Madrid, Toledo, Cordoba, Granada, Malaga, Sevilla, Bilbao, San Sebastian, Barcelona. And the funny thing was, obviously me and Sento, massive football fans. I'm a Chelsea fan, he's a Valencia fan. And we had each other in Champions League group stages that season. So Chelsea and Valencia were going to be playing each other in the groups alongside Ajax, and the fourth team escapes me. But the most annoying thing was that the 5 weeks we were together in Spain, we couldn't even watch the game together, let alone go to the game, because Chelsea played Valencia at Stamford Bridge before we went to Spain, and the return fixture was like 6 weeks later at the very end of the group stage. So we were literally sandwiched in that 5 week period when we couldn't actually go and see that game at Valencia at the Mestalla, which would have been unreal. I mean, Sento isn't here to sit here and salivate over that one, but the thought of going to watch that one, and it was a 2-2 draw as well. I actually think I watched that game at Sam's house. Sam probably won't remember that. 2-2 draw it was. Kovacic got a goal, and I think Pulisic did as well. But a 2-2 draw is quite a nice result to have when you're both going to watch each other's teams play each other. So that would have been a great experience. So, we'd love to see Valencia back in the Champions League, for the hope that either Spurs or Chelsea could draw them and we could go to the game together. So, fingers crossed for that one. But, so matches or the results in the Liga, other than the Valencia-Osasuna result last weekend, Real Madrid got quite a boring 1-0 win away at Getafe, and Barcelona quite a boring win at home to Celta Vigo 1-0. Don't at me, Sento, but I think out the leagues I've looked at so far, this one's potentially the least appetising. I mean, the top two running away with it already, Barcelona, Real Madrid. When you look at, Serie A, and you've got Napoli sitting on the top of the table, that's quite refreshing. And then you go to Bundesliga and you've got Union Berlin at the top. It's nice to see. But no, I do like the Liga. It's an interesting league. Fantastic country, by the way, Spain. Probably if I had to move abroad, it's going to be one of the two S's, Sweden or Spain. So, great country. Love it. But yeah, it would be nice to see a bit more of a competitive league. It's just, it's been either Barcelona, Madrid or Atletico, isn't it, for far too long. Partly probably down to Peter Lim. Sell up, mate. Sell up. Valencia haven't won the Liga in over 10... when was the last time they won the Liga? Was it 2004? I'm not sure. But yeah, so that probably concludes me quickly going through the 5 sort of domestic leagues: Bundesliga, Premier League, Liga, Serie A and La Liga. I'm now going to quickly jump in and chat about the Champions League results from last night and fixtures for tonight. Last night we had Group E. Chelsea again, my club in action, away at AC Milan. Not desperate for a win, but my opinion was just don't lose. Just don't lose. I actually said to my girlfriend before the game, we were watching the game together, I actually said, I'd take a draw here. The San Siro is bouncing. They seemed like they wanted revenge for last week, which, they didn't get it, did they? But that Milan crowd is something else. And to think that they want to pull down San Siro is so sad, because it's such an icon in European football, and actually football, global football. It's an iconic stadium. It's probably in the top 10, probably is in the top 10 iconic stadiums, isn't it, San Siro? And I've not been to it myself yet. I really want to go. So, what an event. What a game to watch. Chelsea, probably the best I've seen us play under Graham Potter. The crispness of the passing, the directness. One touch, two touch, max. Spraying the ball around, players playing in positions that potentially, you wouldn't necessarily connotate them towards. Players filling in gaps, players opening and exploiting spaces by running into the gap, playing quick 1-2s, wrapping balls around the corner for players running into space. It was a feast for the eyes. I was loving it. Do I think the penalty was harsh? Potentially, yes, but I do think it's a penalty. He's not got no intention of playing the ball, and that's why it's a red card. Potentially, again, yeah, soft red card, but the letter of the law is if it's no intention to play the ball and it's denying a goal-scoring opportunity, it's a red card. And Tomori is behind ball and man. He's tugging at Mason Mount's shoulders, trying to unsettle him. And he's basically put Mount off balance as Mount's taken the shot. And the referee's immediately blown up for a penalty and given a straight red card, to which Tomori clasped his fingers together like the classic Italians do, waving his hands together. He's learnt well, but he wasn't happy, rightfully so. I mean, it was harsh, but I do think it was a penalty. I just think a yellow card would have been suffice. Jorginho converts the penalty. Chelsea go 1-0 up. Shortly after, really nice build-up play. And Mason, well, I looked at it and thought Kovacic should have laid it through to, I think it was Chilwell, giving an overlap run out on the wing. But he'd done a sort of a semi-disguised, very direct and well-paced pass in towards Mason Mount, sort of towards the centre, sort of half D on the edge of the box, who one touch, I'm pretty sure, slotted it through for Sterling and Aubameyang. Like, it was such a good pass that two players could have picked up the crumbs of that and hopefully converted, which they did. Aubameyang took the shot first time, near post. Goalie thought he was probably going to go far post. 2-0. And Aubameyang does his front flip. I was on my feet. What's a goal? I thought, what a goal. Like, this Potter ball wasn't that bad. You know, I was actually quite hopeful and happy with the appointment of Graham Potter, but I'm not sure I expected us to be playing football this well this soon after him coming in. So I'm really happy the way it's going with Potter. I really thought we played well. I thought it could have potentially have been 3. Could Gallagher have scored that chance where he took it around the keeper? Maybe he could have squared it to Aubameyang. Could have perhaps got his angles a bit better. But I think we played well, and I'm really liking the way Potter's using the squad. I'm liking the pace of our play, our intensity. We look solid defensively to an extent. Thiago Silva's looking as young as ever. Koulibaly's starting to play well. And there was a point where Koulibaly was looking a bit sort of suspect, I think, under Tuchel. He played well obviously in his first game where he walloped in that volley against Tottenham. But there's been a few games where Koulibaly's looked a bit suspect and vulnerable. Maybe pace-wise, awareness-wise maybe. But he does read the game fairly well. Not as well as Thiago Silva. I don't think I've seen anyone read the game as well as Thiago Silva since the likes of John Terry at this club anyway. To have seen John Terry and Thiago Silva together, oh my lord. Can you imagine a Ricardo Carvalho, Thiago Silva and John Terry back three? Wow. Anyway, great game from Chelsea. Second half, didn't end up scoring, but we kept Milan at bay as well. Giroud should have probably scored his header, that chance he had, cross from Brahim Diaz. But really happy with that win. We've got 6 points off Milan, and I don't know if I expected that. We're now sitting pretty, I think, at the top of our group after Red Bull Salzburg and Dinamo Zagreb drew 1-1. And so, yeah, the Champions League has been turned on its head for us. You know, we lost the first game to Zagreb under Tuchel. Tuchel got sacked the day after. Graham Potter's doing well. And I'm just excited to watch the next game against Aston Villa. I'm hoping we can get another win. Like I said, I'm away at Bristol this weekend, seeing family, or the girlfriend's family. And I would like to be back to watch that game, just because, I'm sure Arsenal fans can probably attest to this. Most football fans should attest to this, to be fair. It's part of being a fan, isn't it? But that excitement of just looking forward to the next game is really it's got me by the throat at the moment. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Celtic knocked out the Champions League basically by Leipzig last night. Timo Werner and Emil Forsberg getting the goals there to win 2-0 at Celtic Park. Rudiger getting a last-minute equaliser for Real Madrid away at Shakhtar Donetsk. Where are Shakhtar playing their games? I'll just quick have a look at the stadium. I'm not sure it's saying to me where they play their games. I am actually just going to... So anyway, as I just Googled this quickly, Real Madrid got the last minute equaliser, and Antonio Rudiger got it. It was a header, a cross from Tony, or a ball by Tony Kroos, and Aubameyang, as I try and type, I'm awful at bloody multitasking. I don't think I'm going to be able to find out which stadium this was in. Just off the bat, where I'm typing in, it's not fancy and coming up. Anyway, Polish Army Stadium. Where's that then? Polish Army Stadium. Is this the Polish National Stadium? Stadion Wojska Polskiego. Belonged to the Polish Armed Forces, owned by the city of Warsaw. So Shakhtar are playing in Warsaw. God, puts into perspective what's going on, doesn't it, over in Eastern Europe at the moment. Real shame, real sad, really sad what's going on. We did actually at Pixel Players host a auction for Andrey Chefchenko, both club and country Pixel Player editions. Check the artwork out if you haven't. That was won by Liam McDowell, owner of Sportshead's Originals Team project. And we gave all profits, which was I think about £350 to Ukraine, which would have bought, blankets, food, clothes, tarpaulin for shelter, bandages, anything really that would have helped what's going on over there, which is really, really sad. But yeah, so Rudiger got his head in the wars, equalised against Shakhtar Donetsk in the last minute with a headed goal and cut his eye open in the process, blood all down his shirt. And there's a screenshot going round of Rudiger with this blood-stained Real Madrid shirt, and there's like a perfect blood-stained love heart shape next to the Real Madrid badge. And I'm seeing that posted a lot today, which is quite funny to see, really. Excuse me. But yeah, probably not best result for the champions of Europe. 1-1 away at Shakhtar, but Shakhtar are playing for meanings beyond football, I guess, at this point. So they could be a really tough team to come up against. Man City drawing 0-0 in the early kickoff against FC Copenhagen. Copenhagen, a wonderful city to visit. Would love to be there right now, sipping on a latte as I look out my rainy window in London. Erling Haaland rested for that one. Dortmund drawing 1-1 with Sevilla. I think Dortmund will be slightly annoyed with that. That's at home as well. Bellingham getting the goal, but that was an equaliser from Bellingham. Headed equaliser, I believe. But Sevilla have been shocking so far this season. And so for them to get a draw away at Dortmund's a really good result for Sevilla. I think they just sacked Lopetegui not long ago. And my jaw is just dropping, as I've just realised I forgot this happened. Besides the PSG 1-1 draw with Benfica, Maccabi Haifa beat Juventus 2-0. It was 2-0 at half time. Goals from Atzili. It was Maccabi Haifa's first win in the group stages of the Champions League in almost 20 years. Now, Juventus really do face a tough task if they are to qualify for the knockout stages. That's a shocking loss away to Maccabi Haifa. Juventus have really been on their knees this season. Is it Allegri gone yet? How's he not gone yet? They now have to beat Benfica. They've got to beat Benfica, and they've got to beat Paris Saint-Germain to have any chance of making it through to the next 16. Otherwise, it's looking likely that they're going to be, probably heading into Europa unless Maccabi Haifa beat into it. And this is actually where I love Europa, because Europa League can be a great competition when the Champions League teams drop out into it. It can be quite boring watching Arsenal beat, the likes of Bodo Glimt and whatever. But once, you got your your Romas, or, your Romas are already in it, I believe. But once you get your teams like, maybe AC Milan or a Juventus, and Juventus are shocking, but, an AC Milan or, an Ajax, for example, or a Napoli dropping into Europa League, it can get really interesting. And also the level almost gets to, in some points, the point of the Champions League. for example, AC Milan were to drop out and then face the likes of Man United or Arsenal, it's going to be a cracking game. So, yeah, I mean, Juventus, shocking with what's going on there, but 2-0 to Maccabi Haifa, Paris Saint-Germain 1-1 with Benfica, and Mbappe scoring a penalty, and João Mario scoring a penalty to equalise. Mbappe playing with a sort of frown on his face. I'm not sure, I didn't catch any highlights from that one. But like I said, if I do get any time Sunday evening, I will be dropping in to watching the Marseille-Paris Saint-Germain game. So that one could be interesting. Today, the fixtures today. Napoli-Ajax, potentially pick of the bunch. That's the early kick-off. Don't know, I can only kick off in the Champions League. And Rangers host Liverpool. Liverpool surely will win that. Probably got it as well after Jürgen Klopp embarrassed himself, biting back a reporter in the pre-match press conference. Spurs at home to Eintracht Frankfurt. Worth a watch, maybe, that one. Barcelona hosting Inter Milan. That one at the Nou Camp. And Bayern Munich away to Victoria Plzen. Bayer Leverkusen also playing FC Porto. And Atletico Madrid playing Club Bruges. Pick of the bunch there, I'm probably saying Barcelona, Inter Milan, or Napoli, Ajax. I mean, maybe worth tipping in, dropping on Spurs, Frankfurt, not sure. Spurs haven't exactly been the best sort of team to watch this season, but for some reason I've got a funny feeling about that one. Make of that what you will. Anyway, that pretty much concludes us going through the games, and I've kind of gone into quite some depth. I've taken up quite a lot of your time just by myself today. Sort of just going through the games from last weekend, the Champions League games, as well as sort of looking forward a little bit to some of the games this weekend. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing at Pixel Players. So we are an NFT based project. We started in September 2021 by myself, Fevanova. Basically, I started making pixel art back in the first lockdown of coronavirus. I've always had a fascination with pixel art. It's quite nostalgic for me, I guess. I just started making pixel players, or at that point I'd called it Football in Pixels, which if you quickly go onto Instagram now and type in Football in Pixels, all one word, you'll see my sort of oldish Instagram page where I used to sell pixel prints from. I sold pixel prints all around the world. To Malaysia, to America, to Germany, France, Portugal. I sent them all around the world, and I found some success in making my own art for once, which was something I really enjoyed and something I wanted to create a career around. I guess I was trained educationally in architectural design, which again I enjoy to a degree, but in my professional experience in architecture, I didn't enjoy it as much. It doesn't involve as much creativity. Most of it is just people pleasing and stuff like that. So I really would love, and that's why I started Pixel Players. That's why basically after I started Football in Pixels and was selling the prints on paper, Sam, or at Skipper NFT on Twitter, harassed me into migrating this work into an NFT project in the summer of 2021, when NFTs were kind of sort of taking sort of the attention a little bit, grabbing people's attention. And the atmosphere I found when I joined the NFT space in September of 2021 was magical, or August 2021, should I say. I'd never experienced an atmosphere of sort of positivity and people supporting each other like that, especially in a creative sort of sphere. Like a lot of the time in architecture school or art school, it can be quite competitive and quite toxic in some senses. So to sort of like move into this brand new digital space and meet so many like friendly people who are, these aren't people that we were just speaking to over Twitter. These are people who we've actually ended up meeting up in real life. We've had voice calls with these people, video calls, whatever. NFTs really does introduce you to people that you wouldn't expect. And so when Ham or Sam really did sort of harass me to get Football in Pixels migrated across into a NFT project, Pixel Players NFT was born. And I had this idea of creating one-of-one players. So, for example, the Thierry Henry pixel player or the Maradona pixel player, there will only ever be one club player. So if you right now go on OpenSea and find our Pixel Players NFT collection and buy Van Basten from AC Milan, you will have the only Van Basten pixel player that will ever be made. Now, at the moment, the way we've done it is we're working through releasing Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Ligue 1, and Serie A icon packs, so around 250 to 500 pixel players. Now, if you own one of them, which are the only ones you can get hold of at the moment, if you own one of them, you will get a international version of that player. So it won't. Every player is made with a specific moment in mind. So if you go right now, for example, and like I said, go on, let's just say Frank Lampard. The Frank Lampard pixel player has actually already been bought, so you can't buy Frank Lampard. He's owned by a Canadian gentleman named Paul. Paul will at some point receive an England version Frank Lampard, but the Frank Lampard version he owns of Chelsea, he's a Chelsea fan, as you may guess, is based upon his goal in the FA Cup final in 2009 against Everton in that wonderful yellow kit where he scored that winning goal 2-1 against Everton, and he ran around that corner flag in sort of commemoration of his dad's sort of old celebration. So that's the moment that inspired the Frank Lampard pixel player, which is why he's seen wearing the yellow Chelsea shirt. Every pixel player, there's about 200 odd now, has been made with a specific moment or season in mind. Every kit they wear, they're wearing that kit for a specific reason. Now, all of the icons that we're making will receive an international counterpart at some point to incentivize you to basically support our project, to allow us to use the funds to develop the project further and progress it. And so if you do support us now and you, for example, buy a Ruud Gullit, a Van Basten, who are probably set in, I think the Van Basten one is a 1993 Van Basten, if I'm not mistaken, 1983, can't remember. You'll receive a Marco Van Basten probably from that Netherlands World Cup where they almost won it, or the European Championships, for example. So the year that the international one will be based on will be different from the club one, and the haircut could be different. So you'll get a different Van Basten, but it will still be Van Basten. But there'll be no more Van Bastens, just those two. So all the icons will have a club version and an international version, but no more. And when we finish making the icons and we move on to creating and developing just the base players, so for example releasing players like perhaps Jordan Henderson's, maybe players such as Timo Werner, for example, there will only be one of those. They won't get international counterparts unless they do something special, in which case the owner will be given the counterpart. So you always get choice of whether to keep both and completely control the sort of the flow and the supply of the players, or you could sell one of the players, for example, and keep the other one for yourself. But it's designed to sort of reward the owners and reward the people who support us at this early point, while we think of ways to move forward. But we have big ideas for Pixel Players. We see it as being a global Web3 brand where football fans can meet each other all over the world. So the way I see it is, we'd have fans from Argentina, Brazil, Australia, Thailand, China, anywhere around the world. They'd own their favourite players. And for example, let's say I'm in holiday in Argentina and I want to meet a fellow Pixel player owner who might live there. They might, who knows? I could end up meeting a Pixel player owner in Argentina, going out for a few cervezas, getting a bit tipsy. Next thing you know, I've got a ticket to the Boca Juniors game with this brand new best friend I've made. And it's all thanks to Pixel Players, So not only do you get to enjoy and own this artwork, which you can print off and frame or, print on a T-shirt or whatever, and sort of revel in the moment in which it's created, inspired by, but there's also that sort of social integration aspect to it. But we are really looking at, building more things around this brand that aren't just sort of, I guess, social constructs. So, we're actually looking at building in an ecosystem with tokens. We're building in ways you can spend those tokens that are quite ingenious. Competitions where you can win real memorabilia, things like that. So, we're really starting to try and get the ball rolling in this project, and we can do it without the fans, but it's no fun without the fans. Like, the fans are what gives it that magic. Even if you don't buy a Pixel player, there's no problem with that. But as long as we've got people engaging with us and are enjoying our artwork that we post on social media, and we're giving people a platform to meet other football fans, we are happy. The addition of people buying our artwork is just a sort of a plus. But the main thing we want to do is build this brand where people can meet football fans all around the world and meet friends, basically. So that's the crux of it. I've probably left out loads of sort of information about the project, which we will probably have to dip into in the future, because we need to probably do a whole podcast episode on that. But I'm probably looking at mooring this episode up now. It's been around an hour. This has been episode 4 of the Pixel Players podcast. As I've said, I've just explained all about our project, so hopefully that gives you a little bit more information of what we're trying to do here at Pixel Players. The main way we try to do that is on Twitter, trying to reach out engagement. We have an Instagram as well, and obviously what you're listening to now is our YouTube, as we try and reach out to more people around the world. As you know, YouTube is the world's second biggest search engine, so to be on here is quite important for us as we look to grow the brand. So yeah, if you want to find out more about our project, get in touch with either myself, George, Sento, or Sam on Twitter, or drop in the comments, below. Like, comment, subscribe, please. Every little helps. But yeah, if you do have any questions, like I said, comment below or get onto us on Twitter. I'm at FevenOverNFT. At SkipperNFT is Sam, and at RapPenat_ is Sento. I'll put all of those in the description below, so you don't have to worry about trying to understand my weird accent if you find it strange. You can just go below and click on the links. I'll also have links to our Instagram and our actual project Twitter as well. Little exciting little things maybe just to end on. Pixel Kits NFT. Have a little look at that. At Pixel Kits NFT on Twitter. Something exciting's happening there. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. It's been a pleasure. Like, comment, subscribe again. And hopefully next week I'll be joined by Sento and Sam. So, adios.